Well, it's time for our next guest, and this guest was on America's Got Talent this past season, and she was just recently on the America's Got Talent tour. Let's welcome to the show Miss Cami Bradley. Cami, how you doing? Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. You know, I was shocked when we first started emailing back and forth. You were like, "Yeah, I'll do Thanksgiving." I was like, "Wow, okay."
My Thanksgivings are really drawn out. We spread it over a couple days with both of my husband and I's families, and so they're really laid back and relaxed. And thought it'd be no problem to give you guys a call and chat.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So you got to spend, I guess it was a month the tour was that you guys did?
We were gone for 7 weeks, so almost 3 months on tour,
wow.
yeah.
So you got to spend 7 weeks with Tone the Chief Rocka.
Yeah, I spent 7 weeks on a bus with 7 boys and me. It was quite the experience, very crazy and fun, and I have lots of memories.
Now, how does the tour actually work? Do you just go and perform one song? Each person just performs one act real quick and then you're done, or?
I actually got to perform 3 songs over the course of the show. It was an hour-and-a-half show, and we traveled to, I can't remember the exact amount of cities. I think it was 42 cities in 7 weeks, and it was crazy. I mean, the schedule was nuts, and we were, we were all with each other a lot, but it was really fun, and the crowds at every city were amazing. We got to meet a bunch of people that were fans of the show and fans of us, so it was overall an amazing experience for me.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the last time we had Tone on, I think he actually passed you the phone, and I guess you guys were right with the crowd, and the crowd was screaming the whole time. And I was like,
yeah, I remember that. We were trying to get on the bus, and there was a whole bunch of fans that were outside of the gate trying to get our autographs and pictures, and it was pretty fun.
It sounded like something out of Beatlemania. It sounded crazy.
It is. It's kind of nuts because I still feel like a pretty normal person, and people view me differently now, and so it's pretty crazy to walk around and be recognized and have people scream your name and want your picture, want your autograph, want anything that you'll give them.
Now, I guess, let's go back in time a little bit. Now, how long have you been singing and playing piano for?
I've been playing piano since I was 7 and singing since I can't even remember when I started. I grew up in a musical family, so it's kind of just second nature for me to be playing and singing all the time.
Okay, so now that you've got to experience TV, B, Radio City Music Hall stage, C, going on tour, is it everything you expected, or are you still kind of overwhelmed by it?
I mean, honestly, it still feels pretty surreal. It wasn't at all what I expected. The TV show wasn't what I expected. The tour was definitely not what I expected. It was all surprisingly more fun than I thought. I mean, I had more fun than I thought, and I enjoyed the process more than I thought. And you go into those things thinking and having expectations of what you think it should be and what you see on TV. You have thoughts about, people are going to be like this, and the process is going to be like this, and the judges are going to be like this, and it's definitely not what I thought. So I was pleasantly surprised at every step.
Now, how tough was it for you to be out on the road away from your family?
Nowadays with technology, having FaceTime and Skype and telephones, and it really wasn't as difficult as I thought because I was able to see my family's faces and talk to them. And with Facebook now, you get updates on people's lives whether you want to or not.
Right.
So it kind of felt like I wasn't gone for that long, and I kept updated on what was going on at home, and so it really wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it because I didn't feel as homesick as I thought I would.
And, when you were doing the show, did you stay in New York as the show was going live, or were you able to go home each show?
Yeah, the show was pretty crazy. I basically went from July to the end of September. I was home for a total of, I think we we counted it was like 9 days total. So I would go home for 3 days and then go back and then go home for 3 days and then go back. And so it was crazy. I don't even remember being home this summer. I don't. I apparently the calendar says I was home, but I don't remember it.
So, did you is this the first time you tried out for America's Got Talent, or any of the shows like that?
Oh yeah, I had no intention of doing a reality show, of being on TV. I've never really been a fame seeker, so I never thought that I would pursue something like this. And I still to this day can't figure out why I agreed to do it. But I'm really glad I did. It was a great experience, and I got so much out of it. But I can't figure out how I tricked myself into actually saying yes.
What was the final thing that pushed you to do it?
I think just the people around me saying, you really should. You should step out of your comfort zone. This would be a great experience for you. You can look back and say, at least I tried. Because I was thinking I would go on to the first show and get eliminated, and then I'd have a great story to tell. I would have pushed myself, and I could walk away saying, I did one of those shows, if people ever brought it up, because I'd get a lot of that. Why don't you try out for American Idol? Why don't you try out for The Voice? Why don't you try out for so-and-so? So it was more of like, I should just do it, and it'll be good for me. And then I accidentally kept making it, to my surprise.
So why was the choice America's Got Talent over the other shows?
I was actually pursued by somebody to submit a video for me. And so they wanted to submit a video to a producer that they knew or that they had access to or something. And I didn't know the person, and so originally I said no, and then I agreed to let them send it in, and then I got a phone call saying, hey, we want to bring you to Chicago to audition. What do you think? So I didn't actually choose the show, per se.
Gotcha.
They chose me.
It's funny because at least I'm coming to find out, a lot of the shows where I'm thinking, or I'm sure a lot of the public thinks, you guys, or whether it's like a cooking show or a restaurant type show, where you think those people are seeking out the show, it's more like the show seeks them out.
Right. No, that's very true, and that's kind of what I figured out as well. I mean, there's definitely, you see the videos of the cattle calls for all these shows where people are standing in line for hours. That really does happen. I mean, there's people that do that. And there's other people that are fortunate enough that get to skip that round and move on to a different one. So it's a little bit of both. And I understand why. They're looking for people that might not be some crazy fanatic that wants to go out and stand in line for 10 hours, which I would have never done. So they're hoping for a little bit of both,
Now, when you made it, when they said you got to go to Vegas, what were you saying to yourself inside? You must have been shocked.
I was completely shocked. I honestly, my brain had processed the fact that I was going home every time. I had already told myself that I was going home. I had already processed through it and, in my own way, worked through the good and bad of going home. And then every time they kept saying, and Cami Bradley's moving on, and it's like, what? That's not the plan. That's not what I had planned in my head. So, what are you doing to me? So yeah, I was definitely shocked. Vegas was just like, okay, this is the real deal. Now you're going to be on television for sure.
Now that's the one. When they send you guys to Vegas, I think that is the hardest one. Without that crowd there to get that crowd reaction. It's so tough, and the judges, they seem like it's complete poker face, and they don't let you, have any idea what's going on.
Oh, it really is like that, too. I mean, you walk out there, they say, what are you singing? You tell them what you're singing. They say, okay, do it. You sit down and sing it. There's no clapping. There's no smiles. You have no idea walking off that stage if you gave what you had to give. I mean, personally, I did good, I did bad. But you don't know from the judges whether they liked it or whether they didn't like it or whether they were indifferent to it. So it's a pretty weird feeling, because any other time you perform, for even if it's just for, you know, a bar or a coffee shop or anything like that, you get a sense of whether people are enjoying it or not.
Yeah, and it's funny because I went through, I was like watching your performances today, and that's exactly what I was saying. I was like, I watched that one, and I was like, she nailed it, but without that crowd there or even them show any emotion, you can't tell.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking, and I just had to come to the conclusion, you know, that I knew I'd given all that I could, and so if they didn't want that, then I wasn't meant for the show, and that was fine.
Now, how about the songs that you sang? Did you choose those songs and the arrangements, or did they do that for you?
The process for song picking is pretty intense. I probably submitted over 100 songs by the time the show was done.
Wow.
And so I definitely had a choice in the songs. I mean, I didn't do a single song that I didn't want to do. But it wasn't like, hey, these are my top 10 and I'm going to do 5 of the top 10 over the course of the show. It was like we were diving pretty deep into getting songs that, you know, could get approved and that the show wanted and that, you know, the artist would release. And then once I got it submitted, then I would do all the arrangements myself. And then they would add, like, one of the songs, the very last song, the finale song, I Want to Hold Your Hand. They actually, that one was kind of fun because it was a little bit more collaborative, where the other songs I had kind of done myself and then just submitted it and said, make it happen, make the track happen. So
right.
It was a lot of different ways that we got to the end result. If it was just me and the piano, it was all my arrangement. The Living on a Prayer was all my arrangement. But the last one was more collaboration, which was really fun for me because it was a really great musical team.
Was there any of them songs that you ended up performing that you had done prior to the show?
That I had performed prior, or that I knew the song?
Both.
I would say all the songs I had known prior, but I don't think any of them were songs that I had, like, performed outside of the show or even really thought of performing outside of the show, because most of the stuff I had done was I would perform covers, but newer covers, and then I would do originals.
The one thing I got to say, too, is when you took every one of them songs, you definitely made it your own. Like, you couldn't tell it was just like, oh, yeah, you know, it's a cover song. They became Cami Bradley songs.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's something I really work hard at, and I don't like to be categorized as a karaoke singer, and so I like to change things and really make it, you know, fit me and my style and my voice.
Now, how about the judges? It has to be intimidating to go up against those judges.
Yes. It's amazing because I respect all 4 of them in such a different way. And so it was pretty intimidating every time to step out there and know, you know, each of them had their own category that they'd kind of put you in, like Mel's a musician, but Howard, he knows music, he hears a lot of musicians, gets to talk with a lot of musicians. So they all had kind of their own standard that they'd put you up to. And you know, you'd have to fit that every week in a different way and in a new way. And so yeah, it was very intimidating. And I mean my goal obviously was to please America, but even beyond that was to get good remarks every time. And if I got good remarks, then I would feel really good and encouraged and walk away knowing, you know, I gave my all, and whether America voted or liked it or not, I at least pleased them.
Was there any of the judges that you were more intimidated by, or you tried to really impress them more?
I don't think so. The second week was the only week I got one criticism from Mel B. So I think the third week I really wanted to impress her and kind of change her mind, turn her around towards what she thought of me. But that was only kind of a 1-week thing. Other than that, I wanted to do something that would hit all of them, which is a difficult task because they're not all the same person. They're not all the same. They don't all have the same musical ear. But that was kind of my goal.
Now, when you had to go through this whole process, I mean, did you have like a normal day job before all this started that you were doing?
Yeah, I was a musical director and also a photographer, so I worked 40 to 60 hours a week, and luckily I got paid for what I did for doing music, which I love, but in a very different way, very different form. This was way outside of my comfort zone and way different than anything I had experienced before.
Yeah, because I mean, whenever I that's the first thing I think of with all these shows. Like when you guys start getting into it and you keep going and moving on and moving on and moving on, like, what about your day job? Like, I mean, that to me, like when I look at these shows, that's one of the biggest things why I would never be able to attempt to go on any show is because I'd be scared of losing my day job.
And I don't know how some people do it. I was really blessed that my job was super understanding and I had tons of vacation saved up, so it worked out fine. And also my husband has a good job that, you know, we could keep the bills paid and all that. I don't know how some people do it because you really are sacrificing 3 months of your life. And also, in some ways, you're sacrificing 3 months of your family and friends' lives because they're trying to, you know, support you and be there as much as they can. And so it's pretty crazy how, I mean, this is a very common thing right now. These reality shows are huge, and so a lot of people are giving up their day jobs, which is just crazy.
Yeah, like we had one of the girls that was on The Biggest Loser from last season. We had her on earlier this year, and we had from MasterChef. We had a bunch of them on, especially the one girl. She was Chrissy. She's a good friend of ours now, and she does a show on our network. And she was on our show like 8 or 9 times. But with those shows, like you go into total seclusion. So like when you're on that show or you're like in The Biggest Loser, you're at the ranch, you're not allowed to have any contact with the outside world, your family, children, nothing. And I was blown away by that. I wouldn't be able to do that.
That's pretty nuts. That's actually something that I looked into when I signed on to the show was a couple things. One, they allowed you to kind of live your normal life in between, which was great. You didn't have to, you know, lie about where you were or not have your phone, not be able to contact people. But then the other thing about the show is that they don't get your whole life. So like for me as a musician, they didn't take all my music, which would have been a huge turnoff for me. I would have said no way. So I really appreciated the simplicity of this show and what they wanted and what they didn't want and what they asked for from you as a person.
So are you happy to be home now?
I am. You know, it's really strange kind of coming back from 5 months of the show and touring and coming back to a little bit of normalcy. But I'm really happy to be home with my family and my dogs, and I'm driving a car again, which is just crazy. It's been 5 months since I've been driving. So it's really good to be home. It feels a little strange diving back in, but I know I can get used to it fast, and I'm excited.
How about the motorcycle? Are you riding the bike yet?
No, it's cold here. There's practically snow on the ground where I live, so I kind of miss my motorcycle riding season, yeah. Wow. Have to wait till spring.
Now, you're in Washington, right?
Spokane, Washington, yeah. Washington State.
No, it's funny because, you know, when I think of Washington, I think Seattle and I think grunge. And when I hear your music, I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, like, this is the furthest thing from grunge. And here's your this is going to be your new gimmick name that you can title yourself. You are like a coffee shop angel. That's what your voice sounds like.
Well, thank you. I'll take it.
So, all right. So, what's the future plans with your career now?
I'm not exactly sure. I have a few things in the works. Nothing is solidified yet, but we're under contract with America's Got Talent until December, so I'm not really allowed to make any decisions till after that, which is great with me because it means I'm forced to not sign anything or do anything until after that. But I'm very excited about the options that I have, and I mean all of them are basically, you know, putting out new music and and moving forward with my original songs and also covers, which is really fun. So hopefully this won't be the end, that you will, be done with my name, and I know that's very common for shows like this, so I'm hoping that I break out of that mold and not follow that pattern of just disappearing.
Now, you just said something that it makes me wonder, I guess I should say, because Tone was telling us the same thing too. Like when he was getting ready to release his one-hit wonder over there, that they sign you guys to a contract, and it's, I guess, basically like almost like they own you and direct you for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, they do, but they don't. It's not very. Basically, they want you for the tour, and they want to make sure that they are done with you before they move on, And they could choose to sign us even longer, but this is kind of the end point. They let everyone go usually.
Right.
So it really isn't that bad, because basically I got off tour and they only own me for another 3 weeks, which is nothing.
So do they, while you guys are under contract, they do the tour with you, but like beside that, do they give you any like career guidance or like pointers or tips?
No.
No. Really? No.
No.
Wow.
Not at all.
So it's basically like you got to find your own way.
Yeah, the thing is with this show, there's so much exposure that you get connections and you make contacts, and so it's really not that difficult if you want to pursue it to be able to do that.
So the question is, do you want to pursue it?
It's funny. If you would have asked me that 5 months ago, I would have said, heck no. But I'm at a very different spot, and yes, I do want to pursue it. I'm really excited about it and have found this journey to be very enlightening to me, figuring out who I am as an artist and as a person and what I want to do with my music. So yes, the answer is yes.
So what made you change your mind in that 5 months' time?
I think just being on the tour and getting to experience the people, the fans, and being in a performance state for that long was a lot more enjoyable than I thought, and I just really gained a lot of knowledge about myself as a musician and learned a lot, and so I want to continue doing that because ultimately that's what I love. I love to play music, and I love to grow and change and learn. So I want to continue doing that, and that's the only way that you can is if I really jump on the opportunity and the exposure that I got from the show and move forward.
So do you have music released now?
Yes, I do. I have an album on iTunes called Seas.
Oh, cool. Okay. So do you have a full-length album on iTunes?
It's 7 songs, 7 originals.
Cool. All right, yes, I saw one video for one song.
I have 3 music videos on YouTube right now. 2 studio session music videos and then 1 actual music video.
Well, there's another question I wanted to ask you too. As you're on actually America's Got Talent, and you arranged all your songs and all, you said that, but like the production, do they come up with the idea of how they're going to have you perform the song and all that stuff?
As far as like the backgrounds and everything that like lighting and all that stuff, that's all them. Yes, they have a creative team that basically puts all that stuff together, and you get to help in whether it fits with who you are and your wardrobe and how it all works together. But they're the professionals when it comes to that. So I kind of just said, whatever you think, I'm going with it.
Yeah, because when they brought Tone back after he got eliminated, I was so happy and so excited for him. And that performance they had him do that time when he came back, I was just staring at the TV like, no, what did they do?
He didn't like
I was
it
like,
either. Yeah,
I was just like, oh, what did they do to him? Like, I hope this wasn't his idea. And that made me wonder, like, if they pick all that stuff out and if you have much of a say in it.
I think a little bit, but mostly they do. Especially for that scenario, they were working so fast, like they were working within 3 days of turnaround, and so they just had to make decisions and go with it.
Gotcha. All right, so we have the 7-song album, CD, MP3s, whatever you want to call it nowadays, on iTunes. So go there to iTunes and buy C's by Cami Bradley. And where else can we find you? We can find you on Twitter at Cami Bradley, Facebook.
Yep, Cami Bradley Music.
And website?
Yes, CamiBradley.com. I make it really easy for you, huh?
How about that? Anything else you want to plug or get out there? Or?
I don't think so. You just covered most of it. I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on. It was great talking to you. I hope to hear more music from you, and I hope, hey, maybe you come over to the Philadelphia area and we get to meet and see you.
That would be wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
Cool. Thank you. Take care and have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'm glad to, I guess, bother you on Thanksgiving. Have a great night, Cami.
All right, you too.
See ya. All right, everybody, Cami Bradley from America's Got Talent. Remember, go to iTunes, buy her 7-song MP3 CD. What would you call that? Just go buy her music. How about that? On iTunes, it's called C's. It's Cami Bradley. And you can check her out on Facebook at Cami Bradley Music, her website, CamiBradley.com, and also on Twitter, you can follow her at Cami Bradley. All right, let's take a commercial break, and we'll come back on the flip side and see what else is going on.